Hello, everyone. I'm Kayla, 35, and I want to share a story about an unexpected event and how I quickly navigated through it. Unlike many others, my story starts on a positive note with my mother-in-law, which might surprise some of you. Our relationship had always been filled with kindness, understanding, and mutual respect. My husband, Gary, was my rock, my partner in everything, my best friend. Life felt perfect. This isn't a story about ignoring problems or avoiding red flags. Like any family, we had our small disagreements, but nothing that could have predicted the chaos ahead. What happened left me stunned, confused, and struggling to understand my own reaction. The way I responded, seeking revenge on both Gary and my mother-in-law, still feels hard to explain. Here's the backstory. I had organized a special family vacation. At first, it was just going to be a getaway for Gary and me, but then I thought about Janice, my mother-in-law, who had been widowed for 3 years. I could only imagine how lonely she might be, so I invited her along, wanting to make this trip memorable for all of us. The plan was to explore Italy, Naples, the culture, the food, the Mediterranean sunshine. I was excited about the chance to build memories with the two people I loved most, strengthening our bonds. I handled all the details, the flights, the accommodations, the meals, while Gary and Janice contributed for extra expenses as they saw fit. I was determined to give us all an unforgettable experience. From a charming boutique hotel with panoramic views to attending a flamenco dance show, I had everything mapped out. The excitement was palpable, and I couldn't wait to reveal my surprise. Little did I know, this trip would soon expose cracks in our seemingly flawless family life, cracks that would test everything I thought I knew about loyalty, trust, and deceit. But let me not get ahead of myself. I want to take you back to that moment, full of anticipation. It was a time when all I could think of was how amazing our trip to Italy was going to be. I stood in our living room, holding the plane tickets, smiling like a kid on Christmas morning. I called Gary and Janice over, eager to see their reactions. They looked at me with puzzled expressions, a mix of curiosity and surprise. "What's going on, Kayla?" Janice asked, her voice a blend of excitement and intrigue. I stepped forward with a flourish, presenting the plane tickets and unveiling the vacation I'd so carefully planned. I watched their faces intently, waiting for a sign that they felt the same joy and gratitude I did. Gary's response was instant. His face lit up, and his eyes gleamed with excitement. "Kayla, this is incredible. You're amazing." Janice's response was more reserved but just as sincere. "Oh, Kayla, this is such a generous gesture. You've really outdone yourself," she said, her warm gaze wrapping around me like a hug. In that moment, I felt a deep sense of pride and fulfillment. Their reactions confirmed everything I'd hoped for. This was a gesture of love, and it was being received just as I'd imagined. I truly believed this trip would bring us closer, creating lifelong memories and strengthening our bond. But, as you may have guessed, our perfect picture didn't last. Beneath the surface of our seemingly idyllic relationships, a tangled web of deceit was waiting to tear it all apart. What I had envisioned as a bonding experience was about to become a test of forgiveness and redefine what family loyalty really meant. As we boarded the plane to Italy, excitement filled the air. We were on our way to experience the beauty of the country, but none of us knew the storm that was quietly brewing. The first week was everything I'd hoped for. We indulged in local delicacies, explored ancient sites, and danced to the rhythm of flamenco under the stars. Laughter and joy filled our days, and everything felt perfect. But, little did I know, a storm was gathering on the horizon, poised to shatter everything I thought I knew about trust. It was a bright Monday morning, with the sun casting a warm glow over the city. I woke up, expecting to share the day with my family, only to find myself alone in a room that should have been filled with the sounds of our laughter. Confusion swept over me as I reached for my phone, trying to contact Gary and Janice, but the calls went unanswered, and the messages were left in silence. They had vanished without a trace, leaving me with a sense of dread and a million unanswered questions. Their phones remained silent, and my search of the room yielded no answers, no goodbye note, no packed bags, not a single hint that they had planned to leave. It felt as if I had imagined all those shared moments, the laughter and warmth that now seemed like shadows. Alone in a room meant for a family, I was left with only unsettling questions, each more troubling than the last. Had they gotten lost, or worse, been taken? But with no sign of struggle, the grim possibilities faded, replaced by an even colder realization: I was abandoned in a foreign country, and the bonds I had trusted so deeply had dissolved without warning. Just as despair began to cloud my thoughts, a glimmer of hope broke through. A call from Janice. Relief mingled with confusion and betrayal as I answered, my voice shaking with concern. "Janice, where are you? What happened?" I asked, my words trembling with a need for reassurance and answers. Her voice, distant and strained, was unrecognizable. "Kayla, I thought I should at least return your call since you were so persistent," she said, her tone icy. This wasn't the warm Janice I knew. This was someone else entirely. Taken aback, I tried to keep calm. "I'm sorry if I bothered you. I was just worried. I couldn't find you or Gary anywhere." Then, she dropped the words that felt like a slap. "We left you." Stunned, I pressed her for an explanation. Left me? Why? What did I do wrong? I couldn't handle another week with you, so we decided to leave, she replied, her tone harsh and unfeeling. Shocked, I managed to stammer. What do you mean? Did I do something to offend you? Yes, Kayla. You insisted on this trip, assuming I'd be thrilled to spend 3 weeks together. I can manage a few hours at family events, but 3 weeks? I've reached my limit, she said with a finality that made my heart sink. Gary and I are at the airport, we just can't be around you anymore, she added, her words stabbing through the disbelief and hurt that had taken over. My world tilted as I struggled to process her words. How could a bond that felt so strong dissolve so suddenly? Desperate for understanding, I tried to explain my side. Janice, I genuinely had no idea you felt this way. And you wouldn't have, she replied, her voice still cold. I didn't tell you. But why didn't you talk to me? We could have figured this out, I pleaded, trying to grasp at any remaining hope for reconciliation. Amid my shock and sadness, I knew I needed to hear Gary's perspective. Can I talk to Gary? I asked, a mix of hope and dread in my voice. Janice handed him the phone without hesitation, and when Gary spoke, his tone was as indifferent as hers. Hello, he said, sounding strangely detached, as though oblivious to the situation's weight. Gary, you're leaving me too? My voice cracked, the betrayal sharp and raw. I'm leaving because my mom wanted to go home, not because I don't like you, he explained, but the words offered little comfort. How long have you known about your mom's feelings toward me? I asked, trying to find clarity. He admitted he'd known for some time but had hoped the trip might bridge the gap. His admission only deepened my confusion. Why didn't anyone talk to me about this? We're adults, we solve problems through discussion, I pressed, but Gary, like his mother, couldn't provide any real answers. The silence that followed my suggestion of Janice's jealousy seemed to confirm my suspicions. This was less about me and more about her insecurities. Ending the call, I paced my hotel room, bewildered and hurt but also strangely enlightened. I realized that people's issues with you often stem from their internal struggles rather than anything you've done. Jealousy, insecurity, unresolved personal issues, these things can drive people to irrational resentment. The sting of betrayal from those closest to me was something I'd never anticipated. After a few moments of sadness, a spark of resolve took hold. I needed to take control of my situation, to turn this painful experience into a moment of strength. Wiping away my tears, I felt a fierce determination. They would understand that they couldn't just walk all over me without consequences. With hands still shaking, I called Peter, my lifelong friend, who'd been with me through every high and low. I confided in him about the ordeal in Italy, and he offered his support without hesitation. Kayla, you've always been unstoppable, just tell me what you need, and I'm there, he said, his voice a reassuring blend of concern and readiness. An idea began to form, something both symbolic and satisfying. Peter, your construction company still has a ton of that leftover sawdust, right? Yeah, it's a constant hassle, he replied, sounding intrigued. I've got the perfect use for it, I said, outlining my plan to fill Janice's house with sawdust, a messy reminder of the damage she'd inflicted. Amused and impressed, Peter was immediately on board. But how are we getting inside before they get back? He asked, his curiosity piqued. There's a spare key under the potted plant on the patio, that's our way in, I said, every detail accounted for. You've thought of everything, I'm impressed, he laughed, admiration clear in his voice. Determined not to be overlooked or mistreated again, I fully embraced my new resolve. As the plan came to life and Peter confirmed its execution, I eagerly awaited the fallout, not just for the sake of revenge but as a message that I wasn't someone to dismiss lightly. Then, right on cue, my phone buzzed with a message from Peter. The deed was done. Now, it was only a matter of time before Gary and Janice would encounter the result of my response. This wasn't just a prank, it was a lesson in respect and in understanding the consequences of underestimating someone's strength. I opened the pictures Peter had sent, unable to suppress a grin. Janice's meticulously kept home was now an incredible sight, buried under a blanket of sawdust. It was as if a sandstorm had overtaken each corner, a layer of chaos marking our handiwork. Laughing over the phone with Peter, I felt an odd sense of liberation from the weight of their betrayal. It was strange and satisfying, sharing this small victory with a friend who had stood by me in the face of such hurt. There's a certain satisfaction in a bit of mischief, Peter chuckled, and I couldn't have agreed more. As the hours passed, my anticipation for Gary and Janice's reaction only grew. I could picture their stunned faces upon returning to the transformed home. Eventually, Gary's call came, his voice filled with panic and disbelief as he described their shock at the sawdust-filled house. I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. My heart beat with the satisfaction that my message had landed. Actions have consequences. Kayla, it's awful, Mom is beside herself. Gary sounded frantic. I didn't hesitate to own my part. Serves you right, you left me stranded. Did you think there wouldn't be any consequences? I replied calmly. Wait, was this you? He stammered, caught off guard. Then I heard Janice's voice sharply cut in. demanding the phone before accusing me outright. Rather than confirm or deny, I suggested they might want to review their home security measures. Her complaints about the discomfort and inconvenience of the sawdust only made the irony all the sweeter, given their choice to leave me abandoned. In that moment, I felt empowered. I had reclaimed my sense of self, showing that I wasn't someone to be discarded or disrespected without a second thought. Our orchestrated chaos delivered the message loud and clear. As I pondered when I'd return from my vacation, the idea of staying longer became more tempting. When I spoke to Janice and Gary again, as she lamented her home state, Gary was practically begging for answers. "Kayla, how could you?" he asked, distressed. "Oh, you think I had something to do with this?" I feigned innocence. "I'm just here enjoying the jacuzzi, not sure how I'd pull off anything from here." Suppressing my laughter as they fumbled to pin any evidence on me was priceless. The thrill of leaving them bewildered was undeniable. As I ended the call, a deep sense of satisfaction settled over me. I had flipped the script and left them to deal with the fallout of their own actions. Though I knew it was a bold move, I was certain they'd find other living arrangements rather than stay in a house filled with sawdust. Meanwhile, I continued to savor my Italian escape, relishing the freedom I'd reclaimed. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. Some people only understand the impact of their actions when they face real consequences. And if life ever gives you the chance to serve justice in your own unique way, maybe it's worth taking. Sometimes, the best lesson is one that's unmistakably felt.